So I'm sure you're familiar with the saying that whenever you go somewhere, don't burn it down while I'm gone. Well, that actually happened to me. True story coming up. It's time for some story time. Check this story out. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sir Blasphemy's channel or travels. Jeez, I could say it right. Sir Blasphemy's travels. Glad you're here checking this out. A little story time today. Lockdown's still going on right now, so not a whole heck of a lot going on. So I'm not able to get out to my Ren fairs and do my gourmet chocolate and all that fun stuff, my CBD infused goodies, things like that. So yeah, just kind of waiting it out. So hopefully I'll be at the Colorado Ren Fest in August because they moved it back from June to August through September. And then hopefully Texas Renaissance Festival in Houston, Texas will still be going on, and I'll be there October through Thanksgiving. So if you happen to be in those areas and want to come by and say hello, please do. CB Dragon Sweet Shop. So yeah, so today I kind of thought I needed to do some video stuff, and we've all had kind of unique events that have happened in our life, right? So this event is as true as I tell it, okay? Absolutely insanity what happened. It's such a true story. I you won't believe it. So anyway, in my younger days, throughout my 20s, and again, this story here will make, I kind of have to set it for you. I got to get through some boring stuff before I get to the good stuff, and I got to tell you some background so it'll make more sense once we get to the end here. But so I was in retail throughout my 20s, and I worked up from everything from a salesman to a sales manager, and was almost a store manager for one company. I'll leave the company's names and stuff out of it, but for one company, and then I ended up going to another company and became a supervisor there for a little while. And one day I was out, kind of just as you do. I was in a mall. I was walking around, and I happened to walk into this. This is a well-known little mall chain. I guarantee you've been in this store at least once or twice in your lifetime. So if you've ever been into a mall, these little stores are everywhere. So I happened to be walking by, and I saw, a little ad that said management positions available, and I figured it wouldn't hurt. I had a pretty good job at the time. I wasn't really thinking about leaving it, but if an opportunity to make more money comes around, absolutely. So I go into this store and I talk with this store manager in there, and we get talking. We had a good rapport, and then next thing I know, they're wanting to interview me to become a store manager of one of their stores. So I said, okay. I made time from my other job to go to the second kind of interview. The first one wasn't really official, the second one was. And I spoke with this one gentleman. I don't remember his name. It's been, 15 plus years, and almost 20, I think. And so I had this interview, and he said, well, I'd like you to come and do a third. I want you to talk to one of our, and this was another store manager for another store. And he said, I'd like you to talk to one of our um, district managers. So can you, come back for another interview? So I said, okay. So I come back for this next interview, and I start to really get more insight on what it is they want me to do as this particular, store manager or whatever. And so this guy, well, I'll just call him Jason. I'll leave his name out of it, his real name. Jason was a district manager, and before I even get into this, I have worked for district managers and had good relationships. I even had one that didn't even care for me that much, and I didn't care for him, but we worked well together, got along. I mean, I never had any kind of issue in my life with upper management, and I never went through the things that I went through with this guy. And so I get through the interview and all that good stuff. He decides he wants to hire me. And so the details of this job were, they told me, they said, we need you with your background. We need you to turn around a store. This store has been, he goes to tell me, this store has been dead last for 7 years. They've never bonused, which is just sales bonuses. If you hit your goal, you get a little bit of a bonus in your paycheck. He said they've never bonused. This particular crew's never bonused. They don't know what it's like to bonus. This store's just been in the gutter, dead last in our region for 7 straight years. You think you can flip it? And I was like, yeah, I think I can, And so he said, all right. So I go through the training, I get the job. And so the first month I'm in this store, no joke, first month I'm in this store, I turn it around. It was number one in the district for its very first time. The second month I had it, it was number two in the district. And my team was getting bonuses. I had went in and removed, employees and hired some new ones and started getting things done the way I wanted to do it. But this district manager that I had, Jason, he was the most suffocating, and I'm sure you guys have had to deal with this in your jobs at least once in your life, maybe more, and I'm sorry if you have. It is absolutely miserable when you have somebody over your head micromanaging you and watching your every step, checking in on you when you know how to do a job and you know how to do it better than that person, usually most of the time. So I get this store turned around. At first, he was kind of leaving me alone. He would check in and he would do all these things and he would call and just how's it going, kind of small talk, normal district manager stuff. We'd have meetings, all this stuff. Well, once the store started to turn around, he started to call in on me all the time. Like I I almost every morning as I would go to open the store that I was there, I could hear the phone ringing as I approached this store. And let me tell you, this store was in a bad area, in a bad mall, a dead mall, and I was flipping it around. I drove an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half back to this store because the pay was good, and left another good paying job to take this job on. And so I would walk up to the store and the phone would be ringing every time I was on shift. And I'd have to run in there and it'd be him. And he'd be like, oh, here's what I need you to do today. Here's what I need you to do. And this guy's in, another portion of the state and he's telling me what I need to do in my store that day. And I'm going, okay, at first it was annoying, but after a while I started to tell him, you hired me to do a position. I am the store manager. It's obviously working. Whoever you had and oversaw before didn't work for you because you stayed dead last. My method is working. Well, he didn't like that, and he started calling. I used to be able to go out, as we all do, take a lunch break, take a 15-minute break. We were granted an hour break a day on an 8-hour shift. 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, and a 30-minute lunch. Well, this guy would call to see if I was in the store with my employees. What's he doing? What's he up to? Go get him. Go get him. It was all the time. I couldn't take a break. And I used to tell my employees, if he calls, just tell him I'm in the warehouse. I'm taking my break right now. And they would. And one particular time, because every time I went on break, he would call. And it didn't matter what time I went. That's how frequent this guy called me and basically kind of harassed me, at work. And he called one time, and I was out, and this is when I used to smoke and things like that. And I was out having a cigarette break on one of my 15-minute breaks. And sure enough, he calls while I'm out there because that's how frequently he called. And the young man that I had hired and told him to answer the phone said, oh, you need to call him back. I told him you were in the warehouse and he wanted me to go get you and da-da-da-da. And so I call him back and I said, hey, Jason, yeah, I told the young man that I was in the warehouse in case someone called. I said, but I was on break. I was taking my break. I've been here 6 hours. I haven't taken a break or a lunch. I took a break. And I got chastised for taking this break and actually had to have a meeting with an ops guy on his thing to tell me, how to properly behave as a store manager. And I'd been in management, for 8 or 9 years, never had to deal with that, anything like that. So anyway, this was kind of the habit there, and it was burning me out. And my father ended up owning a landscaping business. So I spoke with him one day, and he was getting ready to retire from it. And he said, hey, look, I can bring you in if you have the time. I can bring you in and train you. And then once you're trained, work with me for a month, and then you can buy the business from me. And I said, okay, let's do it. And so he said, let me know when you can, get time to where you can work with me for a couple of weeks. I can, train you on how this runs, the billing and all this stuff and how I do it and the clients and getting familiar with them, let them see you and whatever. And I said, okay. So I thought about it and I said, I'm done working for other people. I'm never going to work for another person again in my life. Now, it was, you're always restricted in some way, but this guy had completely burnt me out on working for anyone anywhere again in my life. And I swore at that point, I'm just going to work for myself. So I go to work and I'm, planning this. And of course, I'm getting the usual, this guy. And then it's gotten to be where he's real snarky with me. And then when he would show up to my store once a month, um, he, was real snarky. He would make smart comments in front of my employees. I didn't say anything. I took the higher road, but he started changing my schedule, and then we would have schedule holes, and then he would blame it on his upper management, on me. And I would go, no, and I'd have to call upper management and go, this guy comes in and changes my schedule. He changes my schedule set for the week because he thinks it wouldn't work. And so I won that debate with upper management above him, and he didn't like that. So I was able to do my schedule, but then he started sending in other store managers to teach me how to merch. Wouldn't tell me about it. They would just show up. It was infuriating. So I was up to here with this guy, right? Calling me, doing those kinds of things, being snarky, telling my employees not to listen to what I'm saying, to listen to him. This guy would be telling him to do things from whatever town or whatever store he was in, 500 miles away, and telling my employees, oh no, don't do what he told you to do today. You need to do this. It was just nonsense. He might as well have been the store manager. It was like I was a puppet. So I said, okay, I'm burnt out on this whole thing. This guy has killed me. One of the worst district managers I have ever seen. I mean, ever seen. He was horrible. So I'm developing this plan. So I go, okay, I need to come up with something because he's not going to let me take 2 weeks off. He's just not. Even though I have it in vacation, he's not going to let me do it. It's just not going to happen. He'll probably threaten to can me or whatever. I need a doozy. So sadly, I had to come up with a death in the family. And I told them I had to fly to California and go to my grandfather's funeral, which at the time my grandfather was alive and well. But that was the only thing I could think of. And I said, I can use my vacation pay and I can use bereavement. I can get that money and I can also use sick pay in there. I can use all of that in the course of those 2 weeks and get the full pay and I won't miss a thing. And after those 2 weeks, when it's up, I'm just going to tell them, hey, I'm not working for you anymore. I don't give 2-week notices to people, man. They don't give you 2-week notices when you get canned. I've been in management. Don't give a 2-week notice. It's bullshit. It's just a way to run you out, quicker or get you out of the store. They'll usually can you the next day. That's usually the talk on our end, So never give a 2-week notice. Just leave. Forget all that crap, sounding good on the next resume. All you got to do is explain to your next employer, hey, I didn't want to give a 2-week notice because I didn't know if they were going to can me the next day. I wanted to make sure I had something lined up before I leave this job, man. I'm just, and they'll know, hey, he's probably not going to give us a 2-week notice too. So it's just something to consider. I don't give them. I wouldn't recommend them. And I've done just fine by not doing that when I've worked for other people. So anyway, so I said, okay, this is what I'll do. So I called above Jason. I called the lady that was over the top of him. And I said, hey, I've had a death in the family. My grandfather has passed away. I'm going to need to fly to California and go to this funeral. And in reality, I know it's a lie, but in reality, I was learning the ropes on a business that was going to be mine, that I was going to purchase from my father. So anyway, I do that. So now I got to explain to you, I had a girl that I was dating at the time, and she worked directly across from us at a pro sports pro shop. And so they knew that or whatever, and I was dating her for a little while. And so, they would, my employees would go there and talk to her or something like that, or she'd come over, talk to me, whatever the case may be. So they knew that just right across basically the walkway there in the mall was my girlfriend. So Jason gets the message. He says, good luck or whatever, sorry to hear about that, all that stuff. So I go. I'm in California for no more than a day, and Jason starts calling me. Okay? Now imagine if you're really at a funeral, you're really with family and friends in a time of grieving, okay? And you have someone from work blowing up your phone for whatever reason. I wasn't answering him because I knew what I was really doing. I knew I wasn't going to be there much longer. And he's leaving me a message, Mike, you need to call me back. We've got this, we've got that. Whoa, this shipment, that shipment, da 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 da. All of a sudden the store can't run while I'm there. But according to him, I couldn't run it when I was there. So go figure. He needed my advice on everything. So, so he's calling me. This is the first week. He probably called me almost daily. I'll say he probably called me about 60 times in the first week that I was gone. So then all of a sudden one day, my girlfriend at the time, who worked across the way at the pro shop, she calls me and says, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? She goes, your employees lit the store. Somehow the store caught on fire. The mall's closed. There's smoke all through the mall. I'm coming home, and because we lived together at the time. And she said, I'm coming home. She said, and I've got all your employees running over here saying that Jason Beeler is calling them to come contact me while I'm still at work trying to close up the store because the mall, was closing because of the fire. And he's telling me that I need to get on a flight and come back to the store because my store is in shambles. Okay. Yeah. So, so I was like, fuck him. So I tell her, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So all the employees are like, he needs to come back. He needs to come back. Jason says he needs to come back. Tell him. And my girlfriend at the time is like, I don't work for you guys. I'll tell him the message, but yeah, good luck with that. So anyway, so he's calling me and I mean nonstop. And I finally pick up the phone. I said, Jason, what the fuck do you want? Because I had to act like I didn't know about it. And he goes, well, your store, is on fire. You need to come back and tend to your store. There's a lot of damage. There's water damage. There's going to be a lot of inventory. We're going to have to shut the store down, and we're going to do all this stuff. You need to come back. You are the store manager. You need to come back. And I said, well, I'm not coming back. I said, I'm at a funeral. I'm not coming. And remember, at this time, I still had about 3 or 4 days left on my little bereavement, sick pay, little vacation pay stuff, So I was going to make sure to milk it. So I made sure to get it all. I said, I'm not coming back. I said, my grandfather's funeral is today, lying through my teeth. And I said, I'm not doing it, and I'm not coming back. And he said, well, if you don't come back, I'll expect your resignation. And I said, no, motherfucker, you're going to have to fire me, because then that way, hey, I was under the table training, maybe I get a little unemployment. I didn't apply for it, but, it was just whatever to make sure, you survive. I didn't apply for the unemployment, but my thinking was like, yeah, that way I have every advantage laid out to me. And so he wasn't going to do that. It was funny. He wasn't going to do that. So 2 or 3 days go by, the most silence I had from him, and I was supposed to be back at the store. So the night before the store, he calls me finally, after 3 days of quiet, finally, and says, okay, well, when you get back, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do this. You got a lot of ground to make up for. This is that and that and that, kind of chastising me on the phone. And I told him, I said, Jason, I quit, man. That's that. I'm not working for you. And he goes, you know what? You're the worst store manager, I've ever had, is what he said. And I told him, I said, you're the most confused, dumb fucking district manager I've ever worked around. I've never had a problem with one, ever. And you checked all my references. You talked to those guys. Never had a problem. Got glowing reviews. Maybe it's you. And it was him. And so I said, you are by far the worst. But anyway, yeah. So they burned down the store. Yeah. If you have any kind of stories out there that are like that, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section, man, because any employee horror stories. I've got a few, but that one was the worst. That was the worst experience. And it drove me, thank goodness it happened though. It drove me to go to work for myself, and I've never looked back. I've enjoyed it since. I'm not a rich guy or anything like that, but I've made more money working for myself than I ever would have working for somebody else. Or at least it would have taken years and years and years to climb to that level through working with somebody else. So, but yeah, that's my little story of employees catching the store on fire. So, what ended up happening? What caused the fire, you may ask? We had an assistant manager that was from the original staff that I was trying to fire because she showed up late every day, that Jason Beeler liked and wouldn't let me fire. She smoked a cigarette in the warehouse, which you're not supposed to do because Jason Beeler wouldn't let people take breaks. But she tried to sneak a smoke like in the bathroom, didn't put it out entirely. It caught a trash can on fire. While she was in the front not paying attention, it caught the bathroom on fire, then caught the warehouse on fire before she noticed billowing smoke coming out of the little warehouse stock room. And then it at that point had gotten out of control, and she couldn't do anything to get the fire out because the whole warehouse was burning. It caught on to the back end of the store, burned some of the merchandise and all that stuff. So that was it. Yeah, an employee that I was trying to fire that Jason Beeler liked caught the store on fire by smoking a cigarette in the bathroom because of Jason Beeler telling her she couldn't take breaks and couldn't go on lunch and had to stay in there and manage. So a lady that I was trying to fire, and talked to him numerous times that she was worthless. And yeah, she ended up burning the store. So I'd say that's ultimate karma for the guy. And from what I heard of what my girlfriend told me, because she worked across the way, Jason had to spend his precious time in there doing the inventory after I quit, essentially, and had to do all the inventory, had to do all the dirty cleanup. So I take that as a little bit of karma. So if you're kind of a manager or a boss out there, treat your employees underneath you well. Treat them with respect. Treat them with kindness. Treat them how you want to be treated. Don't power trip. It's not about ego. It's about getting stuff done. It's about earning respect from your employees. So that's my story time, guys. So yeah, that's the story about a store I managed getting burned down by some employees. So I hope you enjoyed it. So I know it was a little long. I'm going to cut it here. So if you can, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Turn the bell on and comment down below if you have any employee horror stories. I'd love to hear about it. And I wish you guys well out there. I hope you're staying safe. I still hope you're staying healthy. Wash your hands. Wear masks in public. Be careful. All right. I sure do thank you. Until next time.